Hi, this video is to just show how I fixed my weapon clipping issue. We all must have faced the weapon clipping issue at some point of time where the weapon that you carry actually gets into some wall or some other object. There were a few solutions on the internet. One of them was like making stacked cameras, one camera to render only the weapon and the other camera to render everything other than the weapon. But that solution didn't work out for me because the stacked camera was not working very well with uh, Cinemachine virtual cameras. I had two of them in my screen. Okay, first let me show the issue that I am facing and then how I fixed it. It may or may not work for you, but yeah, I'll just show. First let me first show the issue. Okay, in this case, my weapon is the bow. Unlike a gun which we just hold in front of us, and unlike a first person shooter where we are only looking at from one angle, this bow and my third person shooter, I'll be able to look at different angles and the clipping is much more visible. First, let me quick load all my weapons, which I have earlier saved. Okay, quick loaded. Before my weapon, I'll just go directly without wielding anything. Here it is not clipping, but it's too close to the wall. When I go around, it clips like this. Basically, this is not the issue that I am referring to, but still we can fix this pretty easily. Now let's look at the weapon, the actual clipping that I am referring to. Open my inventory manager. I have three arrows. I'll do one more thing. I have a wet cloth, so I'll mix them up and make a fire arrow also. And I leave it in my quick access slots to just switch between using 1, 2, 3 keys. Okay, so now I build my bow, turn around, just go towards that. We can already see that it is clipping through the wall. If you go like this, it is even worse. Almost the complete bow is inside the wall. This is what usually the issue that we face. And let me show another thing, another scenario that I have. Instead of a normal arrow, I'll take a fire arrow. Okay, so my fire arrow, which actually I'll aim using while pressing the mouse button and releasing the mouse button will shoot it. But this is just an arrow. To make it a fire arrow, I'll have to collide it with one of the fire particles, which I'll try to do now. It did, but you look at the bow is not only clipping through the walls or anything like that. It also clips through this kind of objects, which I want to completely like fix up. So the way I did it is, or the way I want to do it is, I don't want to just over render the bow. What I'll be doing is like once you just go and hit the wall or any other obstacle, I'll just take one step back. That is what I'm looking at now. Let us see how to do that. First of all, there is one more thing I want to mention here, that my player object, its animation is actually driven by the root motion. If you know what it is, if you enable root motion, the animation moves your player. If you don't use root motion, then the character controller, the velocity you apply to the character controller moves that player. Basically, it decides whether the animation moves or your code moves. In my case, I'm using root motion. If you want to see what I mean, of course, my model and all the animations I took from Mixamo. There are a lot of tutorials available on that. I actually put this together using a few tutorials on the same channels. Or if I say with bow, walk forward. If I look at this one, you see that my loop time is actually set and loop pose is set so that I just continuously keep walking, and all these root transforms, the XY transform and only the vertical transform I am not enabling, because that I'll be using the character controller to do that. With all these root motions enabled, if I try to play a preview, you can see the ground is moving below the feet of the character. So I don't have to explicitly apply a force to the character controller. Now that said, let's go to the problem at hand. First thing is, when I get near to the wall, when my camera orbits the player, it's clipping through. That solution, at least that with whatever works for me, it's pretty easy. So it's like the character controller here. It is almost a tight fit. If not a tight fit, it's a little bit near to that. I'll just increase that a little bit and probably move it also so that I get some more space on the front. And if I look at the the virtual camera, it's not just the virtual camera. I have to go for the real camera where it shows what is the near clipping distance. Near clipping distance is not here. I'll leave that to default. Okay. So when I run, I go near to the wall. Now it is not as close as it used to be, and when I actually go through, it didn't clip. I just moved the player a little bit away from the wall. This may or may not be your solution. You may be using artificial AI or the Neo Mesh or some other things. This just worked for me. This is nothing to do with the weapon clipping. This is just an aside. Now let's leave it there. When I look at my bow, or basically any weapon that I'll be using, it's not just the weapon. I'll be using other objects also. Mostly you'll be like instantiating at that point of time, or you'll be taking it from somewhere else. But my weapon, basically it will be in an idle point, which is on the back. Normally, when I wield it, it goes to the active point, which is at the hand. So my weapon is already there. This weapon doesn't have any colliders or anything like that, because bow, I'm not going to hit anyone with that. Only my arrow will be doing that. But if I want my bow to collide with some obstacle in front of me, I'll have to add a rigid body and a collider. I don't do that on this basic bow object. I do that on the actual mesh. So if I do that, my collider will actually take this form. If I add it to the above object, then it will be full square and I have to adjust it manually. I'll just go here to my mesh and add a box collider. Right. It's exactly of the same shape. I just make it bigger, put it back. And I want to add a rigid body. Basically, for any collision, one of the two colliders must have a rigid body, otherwise it won't register a collision. In this case, since I don't have a rigid body on all the objects around me, I'll just add a rigid body to my weapon. Make sure it doesn't use gravity and make sure it is kinematic. So it is not for basic physics operations, it is just for detecting a collision. That's it. My weapon is ready to collide. Now what I want to do is add a script to my weapon to check whether it is colliding or something or not. So I'll create a new C# script. Make this as a weapon, no, wieldable, because I will not only be wielding a weapon, wieldable, because I'll be wielding other stuff also. The only thing I need here is on collision enter. Yeah, on collision enter. I don't want to use on collision stay so that it will keep stepping back as long as it is colliding, because there were instances when it was going on a permanent step back loop when I was into some critical corner, somehow ended there. I just want to step back once, that's all. First let me check whether it is working fine or not. Other name or other game object. Other dot, oh, sorry, not other, this is collision. Oh, I'm sorry, this is not collision enter. I believe this should be trigger enter. Yeah, that is right. I'm sorry about that. I just need to have a trigger enter. Okay, so I can remove these two unused ones. Okay, and another thing is like when I make any new collider or any kind of new collision, I really don't want the physics engine to be overloaded looking for colliding with everything and anything. And basically, right now, my weapon will collide with my player or maybe with the arrow. I don't want to register all those stuff. I want to just put it in a separate layer and limit the collision. So my bow, I'll go for the full bow. Yeah, I want to add it into a new layer, which I can say like wieldable. And I'll assign the wieldable layer to my bow. Open. Yeah, all children is fine. And in my project settings in physics, I'll just make sure that wieldable, wieldable with wieldable collision doesn't make any sense. Wieldable with player, I don't want to. There is no sense in colliding with the UI also. I mean, we can optimize this as much as we want, but right now I'm not looking at optimizations, so I'll just leave it as it is. Player and players also, there is no nuisance. Okay, yeah, that should be fine in any case right now. So if I do that, now let's see whether it shows whether it's colliding with something or not. I tend to try out every single small step because I believe that if something can go wrong, expect it to go wrong at any point of time. I'll just go with very small steps. Paddle, okay, that is not ours, that is something. Okay. Oh, first I'll have to wield my weapon. Quick load the inventory and load my bow. Go. It didn't register any collisions. Sorry about that. I'm just back. So let me quick load my inventory, wield my bow. I just collided with the prefab structure every time. It is not doing it continuously, it just does only when it enters once. Maybe every small movement happens, but that's fine for me. Okay, fine. So my bow actually collides with the external structure, not with the player. That is fine enough for me. Now I want to animate my player so that it takes a step behind. I just downloaded this where is that walk back animation. How to prepare your animation download, since there are tutorials all over the place. Only thing is here is like I don't loop time, but I do root transform because I just want to do one step. I just do root transform. So let me go to the animator of my character. Empty-handed, I don't want to step back because I really don't collide anything. Let me go to the bow state, which got its own set of animations. If you see that while wielding a bow, the walk and run animations are all different from empty hand. So this is my blend tree where I do idle, walk, or blend. I want to just step back whenever I am idle or walking or running. So I'll just take this walk back, drop it in here. Before that, I want to add another parameter, a trigger. This is what step back. Okay. Trigger, in the sense you just set it once, you don't have to worry about clearing it manually. So while I am using walk, run, and blend, I transition to the one step walk back. And this one, I don't want it to have exit time. It should be executable any point of time when it is in a walk or run, not wait for the cycle to complete. I just want this one condition where as soon as I get a step back trigger, I just take a step back. Once that animation is completed, I just go back to the walk run. For this, I have exit time, no other conditions. Similarly, while aiming also, that's a different set of animations. I'll go for do the same exact same thing. Aim, walk back. I walk back into aim, or basically walk back from aim. Make transition from here to there. The same thing. No exit time. I get a step back and then again go back once the animation is complete. Walk back this thing. That's fine. That's all the changes I have in my animator. I need in my animator. So let's go to my script there, the collision script. Mind you, this script should be there in the same level of the rigid body and box color, not the one above. Since we are using the on trigger enter, that this works only if you do this. So let us look at the script. I think I already have, yeah. So let me go for an animator. So CGI's field of animator. For now, I'll just assign this from the editor. But otherwise, we can just search for it, get component, whatever, during either awake or startup, either, whatever. So in this case, what I want to do is animator dot set trigger of, what was that again? Yeah, step back. Let's just quickly try it out. Quick load, read my bow. We go forward. Oh, unassigned references, of course. Now I'll have to assign my reference here. Either I can pull and I think there's only one of those animators. I just select as it is. Go. Quick load. Wield my weapon. Oh, I just go bump into it and get back. It's getting back a little bit too slow. So what we see is that the stepping back is way too slow. I just increase it to twice the speed. Speed, let me make it 2. Here also speed, let me make it 2. For fine tuning, I can even make the step like step back half a step, but that really shouldn't matter now. Right now it's working. Let's see. I go forward, hit and just hit and bump back. Hit and bump back. That works perfectly fine for me. Either I walk or run. I just run, I hit and get back. This is fine. This is completely okay for me. Right. Now the next one. When I try to wheel. Yes, now it says, let's see. I go down and hit here. Yeah, hit and get back. It is perfectly fine. I go up and hit. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the regular arrow. Let me choose my fire arrow. I'll choose my fire arrow. Now, as soon as I get into that arrow, it stepped back. I'll have to add an exception that don't detect a collider with another weapon. Yeah, it shows the fire arrow prefab. It detected a collision. So it just stepped back once. We can add that. But apart from that, I just go in there without any issues. My arrow got fired. I could just shoot them up. Okay, so the only thing that remains there now here is if other dot, this is tag, right? Yeah, tag. Is that? Sorry. Is that other dot game object dot tag or transform dot tag? Yeah, fine. And I'll have to make sure that my arrow is tagged as weapon. There. My fire arrow is tagged as weapon. Yeah, that should be fine. Quick load. Make a fire arrow. Wield it. Wield my arrow. This is my fire arrow. Okay, let me go to the console. Clear it off. But looks like it didn't collide with my power arrow. Make the fire arrow. And I am able to go and light it up without clipping through it. I think that's all what I want now. The same space. I think that's all what I want. I hope this helps you. If you have any questions, just give me a ping, and thank you for watching.